Hi, hello to all the listeners. Today I'm here with Katie Schultz.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here because I love supporting my fellow Canadian youth. So,
Fellow Canadian.
yeah, yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. So, do you want to introduce yourself to the listeners first, who you are, what you do?
So, my name's Katie Schultz, and I am a writer, a filmmaker, avid reader, fangirl, sort of. I have an Instagram account, which is where I've gotten most of like my following and where I sort of like found my love for my craft and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's like my little intro.
Yeah, of course. That was awesome. Okay. So, my warm-up question is I know you're a Taylor Swift fan. So, what is your favorite Taylor Swift album and your top 3 songs from that album?
Oh gosh. Okay. My top Taylor Swift album I'd say would be Lover. I'm really like a
Good
Lover girl,
choice.
really my Lover era. Top three songs, probably Paper Rings, I
True.
Think He Knows, and maybe False God. That's
hmm
very up there.
Those are all great songs. I was listening to
Mhm.
Lover earlier today.
Great song.
Okay, and then we start our episodes with a reading update. So, you could talk about your current read, your last read, or something you plan to read next.
Okay, so my current read is a book that I started when I was like really little, and I was like, you know what, I feel like we should finish it, the nostalgia and all that. It's called Sweep. I don't know who the author is. It's some French guy.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a story about like a monster and like a chimney sweep little girl, sort of. It's really sad apparently, so can't
Oh,
wait to read that.
fun.
And I don't really know what's next on my TBR. Really, whatever I pick out on my bookshelf.
True. Okay, so let's talk about you and your writing. What has your journey with writing look like? I mean, I know you're pretty young, so like, how did you like get into writing, and when did you start taking it like more seriously?
I really started writing when I was like in grade 4, I'd say. I wrote a lot of short stories by hand in my little notebooks that I collected. And then, sort of during the pandemic, I was like, it'd be really cool to write a book.
Yeah.
And I expanded on one of my short stories and sort of started like sharing it on social media and typing it up and making it look all nice. And I was like, this is really
Yeah.
cool. Like, I want to do this more often. And it's just sort of expanded from there.
It's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
So I know you also mentioned your social media. So what really like brought you to start posting on social media, like especially about your writing?
I was really bored
Yeah.
and like during the pandemic obviously, and I saw a bunch of like writing accounts come up with like writing prompts and their little sort of aesthetic collages of their stories. And I was like, that's really cool. Like, these people have sort of built a community of other readers and writers that like want to do that kind of stuff. And they're all like young, like me. So
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do that.
hmm
And just started posting.
Yeah, that's really cool. Are there ever any like challenges that come with writing and then doing it all on social media too?
Having having it all the steps of the writing process and like putting it out there into the world has made it a little bit difficult to keep moving because I'm constantly getting like comments on it,
Yeah.
and people know what I'm doing, people know what I'm writing like pretty much at all times, which is what is sort of the appeal to my account I've found, but it's also made it very difficult to like be consistent with everything.
Yeah, for sure. Is it ever like any motivating for you?
Yeah. All of my amazing writing friends that I've sort of collected over the years, I suppose, um, they are so supportive. Like, we have group chats and we're always hyping each other up on our stories, and it's honestly just an amazing community. Um, and I don't think I would have continued writing like to this extent without any of them. So
Yeah. And it's really cool to see like where your account is
it
at
is.
now.
Yeah. Especially in comparison to like last year, I had
Yeah.
probably 1,000 followers, and it's definitely grown a bit.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, when it comes to writing, what does your process look like? Do you usually plan things out or do you just like start writing as soon as an idea hits?
I usually just start writing right away.
hmm
My notes app is chaotic, to say the least. full of lots of little story ideas with like very minuscule planning. Like there's not very much planning going on in any of my projects because I feel like I just really need to follow the flow, like where it's going, um, and see where it leads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that how it went when your book Fellowship of the Fidellians?
Yeah.
Mm.
Which it was sort of chaotic at first because when you're writing a book, you need to have a plan, and I did not. All I had was like, oh, best friends in a forest running around with dragons and swords, like
Yeah.
typical fantasy books with lots of really good vibes. Um, but then as I was writing it, I sort of found this plot that was hidden in there or something. So
Yeah.
it worked out.
So when you like you get a lot of ideas, but how do you know like which one is one that you're like really gonna like move forward with, like how you did with Fellowship of the Fidellians?
Honestly, I just think of like its potential because there are some stories that like you can't really elaborate on. Like it's meant to be a two-page short story or it's meant to be a little paragraph written on a piece of paper. It's not meant to be this big novel with side plots and side characters and all sorts of fancy character. I don't know, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So for you, where do you draw the most inspiration to write? Like any movies or shows or other authors or books? Like what inspires you to write?
Honestly, like it really depends. Any sort of media that like I consume, so TV shows, books, lots of music, definitely. It really depends on like what my current obsession is. Like as
Yeah,
I said, I'm a bit of a fangirl, so like
me too.
um, Stranger Things, Percy Jackson, sort of Taylor Swift,
Of
um,
course.
whatever I'm really into at the moment, I draw inspiration from, and it helps me write whatever short story I'm really into or whatever book I'm working on at the time.
Yeah. So what kind of challenges do you face when it comes to writing? Like, do you ever feel like imposter syndrome, or if you believe in writer's block, do you ever get that?
Yeah, I definitely do, especially since I'm not very good at planning my writing. Um, I really work off of like when I'm inspired. So I often hit a lot of writer's block, where I just like cannot get anything out no matter what I try because I'm just not inspired to write that story for whatever reason. But especially when it's a big project like Fellowship with Fidellions or any of my other books, um, I have to keep writing. Like I know that if I keep trying to get these words out, they'll get there eventually.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
of
what
course.
editing's for. Once the words are out there, like I don't know, I just feel better about myself and like my writing, and where it could go. And then in terms of like imposter syndrome, I definitely feel that a lot. Um, especially like when my account was smaller and like people were mean.
Yeah.
um, and I just like didn't really feel like I belonged in that community or just like as a writer in general, felt like I didn't write enough or but like wasn't consistent enough or anything like that.
Hmm. But it's good you kept going at it, and
Exactly.
now you're
Now
at
here
like
we
a
are.
wonderful place. Yeah, that's awesome. In terms of like either of those things, how do you work through that? Like imposter syndrome, you kept going, like you kept posting, and with writer's block, like how do you work your way out of a place when you're kind of like that?
Music. It all comes down to music, honestly.
Of course.
Um, anyone that has followed me for like more than a day knows that I'm always posting like my playlists on my story
Yeah.
and like getting them out there because it's those playlists that like when I listen to them, like I know they sort of bring me back into the world of like my books and my stories, and I feel a lot more inspired to write them and a lot less worried about what other people are thinking of me.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I mean, music for the win, so.
Yeah, yeah. Of course. Great that you like have found your place there with music.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think especially with social media, it's like so easy to get like caught up in like what everyone else is like
Hmm.
commenting and what other people are thinking, or like if they
Exactly.
don't like something. So it's great that you like have found your place with music.
Yeah. It's like an outlet, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about your book, Fellowship of the Fidellions. I want to ask you about what your book is about, but first, how would you describe your book in 3 words and 3 songs?
Oh my gosh. Okay. 3 words. Enchanted, or
Ooh,
enchanting, I suppose.
Taylor Swift.
Um, yes.
Another reference.
uh, just gonna sneak those in there.
Yeah.
Um, tragic,
Oof.
and um, I want to say magical. It's sort of like a synonym for enchanting, but like,
Yeah,
it fits.
I understand.
Yes, 3 songs. Um, this is really difficult. Oh my gosh. Really anything by Taylor Swift, probably Wonderland. Lots of 1989 songs, the
Oof.
really like pop songs.
Of course, I love
Um,
1989.
of course, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
Oh gosh. Oh, Little League by Conan Gray.
I love
Such
Conan
a good
Gray.
song.
Oh my god.
Conan Gray is amazing. Oh my gosh.
That's so exciting.
Like all of his songs. Hold on, I'm literally just looking at my playlist right now
No,
because
that's good.
there's a gazillion songs that I could potentially say. Sorry.
No, you're
This
good.
is a really amazing question, but really difficult. Um, oh, Our Last Summer, ABBA. It's definitely I'm not sure if like you recognize it, but it's like sort of upbeat but very soft and kind of sad. Yeah. Very
Yeah,
reminiscent.
that's a good variety there. That's
Yeah.
definitely very convincing.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so now tell us a bit about what your book is about, some of the main tropes, the genres.
Okay. So basically, Fellowship of the Fidellians is about a group of friends, 8 friends, that realize that their enchanted home that they live in the middle of this big, dangerous forest, is slowly losing people. Like their population is dwindling. And they're like, oh no, all of our friends are leaving. Like,
Uh-oh.
this is not good.
It's not good.
and uh, and so they venture out into the dangerous forest that sort of surrounds them, in hopes to like carve new paths through the forest where more people could come into this sort of refuge of a home that they have.
Yeah. Oh my god,
Um,
that sounds so cool.
and it's just a book of like friendship and tragedy and finding love while you're young and just like living while you still have breath in your lungs and just sort of existing like that, except it's in a fantasy world with dragons and magic and forests.
That's
Lots of forests.
awesome. I'm sold.
Hmm.
That sounds so good.
Yeah. Lots of found family is definitely like the main trope, I'd say.
My favorite trope.
Um, Lots of friends to lovers. I don't really like it, but there are some miscommunication tropes. It sort of happens, I guess.
If it fits, it fits.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really like the biggest trope person, but like if it's there, it's there, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Cool. That
Yeah.
honestly sounds so amazing. Like
Yeah.
I was a little I was looking at your Instagram. Are you writing? I saw you have another book. Is that like a
Hmm.
prequel to
Yes. Okay. Sort of.
Okay.
So, it's all a part of this one series called "The Dust of Separate Worlds," and Fellowship of the Fidellians is the prequel. But I'm releasing it first because I just felt like it fit, with the world building on and all.
Yeah.
And the second book that I'm releasing is called "The Estrelin" and is the first book in the series. So it's like the bulk of the conflict.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Fellowship of the Fidellians is like, probably a decade before, I'd say, and it just like introduces us to the world and to sort of like the all the issues that there are, because obviously there's going to be a big conflict in the series,
Yeah.
um, but it mostly focuses on like the really personal side of things, whereas in the next part of the series we really get into like the whole big battle of the world, like
Yeah.
every little side of the conflict.
Oh, cool.
Hmm.
So, does the Echelon follow the same cast of characters?
Very similar. They're just older, and the main characters are one of the Fidellions, kids. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, we get sort of like the generational thing there.
Yeah,
But
cool.
yeah.
Is there gonna be like any more after the first book? Are there gonna be any more of the like main Fidellions?
Yes, we will get probably four of them coming back in as like main characters for the series,
Mm-hmm.
doing their own little thing because
Yeah.
that's what they always do. But the bulk of the series is about like the next generation, like their kids, sort of.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Cool. 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 Do you know like do you like know how many books there are gonna be in like a series?
Yes, the Dust to Separate Worlds will have four books plus Fellowship of the Fidellians, like the prequel. It's all plotted out, and some of it is written. I just sort of write whenever I can
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's a big project. I mean, writing a book
It's
series.
yeah. And it's good to like take your time to make sure you really get like where the characters
Exactly.
and the world needs to be.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It all sounds so cool. Like you're so talented.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Okay, so where did the name for well, I mean, like everything has a cool name. Fellowship of the Fidellians, the Eshelin, and then what did you say the name was for the whole series?
The Dust to Separate Worlds.
The Dust of Separate Worlds. So where did all those
Yeah.
names come from?
Um, I mean, my brain, obviously, but
Yeah.
um, I honestly couldn't tell you how I come up with names. Like I just sort of like look at like words that sound cool.
Yeah.
Like Fidellions, like um, is sort of like based off of like the word fidelity, which means like loyalty and stuff. And I was like, it's
Yeah.
like a legion of people who are eternally loyal to each other. So they're the Fidellians. But
Aw.
and then the Esterlin, it's a sort of like a class of people with magical powers. I don't know. It's really just a bunch of letters mashed together that I was like, this looks good. We're
Yeah.
gonna go with this.
Well, they sound so cool.
I know.
So with Fellowship of the Fidellians, that's you plan to publish it, right?
Yes.
So how are you going about publishing it?
I'm planning to publish through Ingram Spark, which is like a self publishing platform sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, but pretty much everything else I have to do myself.
Yeah.
Um, so the actual publishing part, and then the marketing, and then the writing, obviously,
Yeah.
is all me.
Do you know like when you're gonna publish it? Like where you at with the book right now? Like editing or like
I am sort of on like a third draft because I did edit my second draft, but it was really rough. So
mm-hmm.
I'm going in again, um, and adding a few more side plots and rewriting some chapters, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to send it out to beta readers soon, and then like end of summer. That's my goal. But school is really busy, so
No, I
we'll see.
understand.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's really stressful. I
Yeah.
want it to be summer so bad.
No, me too. Like the warm weather and the sun and
Books, all the
but
free time
yeah,
to read.
reading all day.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. Okay. It's okay. We're almost there. So, you're self-publishing. So, the I wanted to ask about the cover cuz I think it's a gorgeous cover, and I know you also posted a little video like a little while back about the original cover and the way it's like
Yeah.
changed. So, what like you designed that cover, right?
Yes, I did. Designed and drew it myself.
It looks great. Yeah, how did the process go for designing that cover? Were there like a lot of drafts? Where did the inspiration come from?
The evolution of the cover was sort of it was a very rough one. It started out I just like traced this picture from Pinterest and put some words on it and was like, this is good. This is great. And shared it on my little 5 follower TikTok account. And was like, guys, I'm writing a book. um, and then from there, it like slowly evolved into this leafy, sparkly Fellowship of Fidellians cover I have now. But it took a lot of time, a lot of tears because I'm actually not that great of a drawer. Like, it's mostly just like lots of little lines until it looks somewhat decent.
Mhm.
Um, but it definitely took a while to sort of get where it is. A lot of adjustments. I released the original cover or one of the original covers over a year ago, back in April of 2022, for like a big 2,000 followers thing.
Yeah.
And um, I was really proud of it, but in January I released a new version because I was like, it's evolved. We know more now.
Yeah.
It's more leaves. But yeah,
Yeah. That's cool. Are you like happy with it?
I am at the moment. So, I mean, we'll see in a few months because that's sort of where it's gone so far. But
Yeah.
I do like how it looks. Um, just it really fits the book, especially I made an undercover as well, like a little thing for if there's hardcover copies.
I've
Um,
seen that too. It looks great.
yeah, like the green one. It looks that one I really love. Like I can't wait to get a hardcover copy and like hold the little
Yeah.
green book and be like, "This is my baby," like
Yeah. It's such a good feeling. It's
Hmm.
great also that like cuz you're self-publishing, you get like to control over like what your cover is going to
Hmm.
look like cuz a lot of
Yeah,
authors when they
the
publish don't get
creative
that.
control is
Yeah.
definitely a pro to all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's really cool. For this book specifically, what was your writing process like? Is it like, was it always going to be something that would become so big for you? And like, did you know you were going to publish it at first? Or like, was there a specific point in the writing process that made you say, like, this is a book I'm going to publish?
Well, Fellowship of the Fidellions was sort of like created after I started writing the series, um, because I was like, I feel like I need more. So right off the bat, I sort of knew that I was intending to publish it. Like if I was planning on publishing the series, I'd have to publish Fellowship of the Fidellions as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I really didn't think it would be very good. Like it it was really rough at first, and it was actually kind of discouraging at first because it didn't make any sense, and no matter what I tried, the characters just didn't feel natural. Like they felt very two-dimensional, and I did not like that at all. But over time they've become like almost a part of me. Like they're inseparable from each other and inseparable from me because they're so vital to the story. And
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like um, the book itself is meant to be out in the world. Like it can't be hidden, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. So, you mentioned your characters, so I did want to ask about your characters. I mean, there's like you said 8 characters, right?
Yes, 8 of
So,
them.
that's
Big
like
cast.
yeah, that's a pretty large
Yeah.
cast. So how did you go about like finding each of the characters and then building them?
I actually have very specific memories of this
Oh, really?
because I the only planning that I do allow myself to do is like in the world building sense. And I have this big binder that's like full of all of my fancy words and map drafts and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. And I was going through it for my series, and I was sort of like, oh, hey, these characters have parents who probably would have known each other. Like, that's kind of cool, funny, like a little side
Yeah.
thing. And so I wrote all their names down, and I sort of looked at them, and I was like, I wonder what it would be like if they had a story, like, sort of before all of this drama and conflict and I don't know, just like all the
Yeah.
detriment that comes with this story. And I just sort of pieced together this little world for these 8 people that were virtually non existent and I don't know, made them come to life.
Yeah. That's awesome. Was there anything like specifically that inspired them or like were they based on anything or just like pure imagination?
At the time, I was really into like, I'm not sure if you know, but like the Marauders,
Yeah.
like they're sort of like Harry Potter's dads.
Yes. Yeah.
um, I was like really inspired by like the little friend group that they had and like the extra fandom that the fandom had created. I don't know. I'm not sure how to
Yeah.
explain this, but
No, I understand.
um, I sort of took inspiration from their found family and implemented it into like the Fidellions and watched them sort of grow. As well, there was also like Six of Crows, like that found family, and then
Yeah.
Percy Jackson vibes, and it all sort of mixed together into this one big new story, I suppose.
Yeah, of course. That's awesome. I mean, like everything like that like just creators in general, anything that you create is going to come from like other art that you've consumed.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's like really awesome that you get to like put it all together, but then also like make it your own. That's
Hmm.
really cool. Also, the Marauders is like really cool. I think it's so like crazy, like that the
It's
whole
such an
like
interesting fandom. Like it's
literally
yeah.
like a whole fandom like just made that up
Out of nothing,
out
like
of
four words
nothing.
in a book and like
Yeah.
but yeah, I was definitely very inspired by that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another thing about your characters is they're like all so diverse from what I've seen, that they all like seem to have different backgrounds, different
Hmm.
races, and then also like I think they're all queer, or I feel like I've seen like majority of them are
Yeah,
queer.
most of them, yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. So including this diversity in your books, was it like a conscious decision for you to include all these things, or like was it just something that came naturally?
Honestly, it was very natural because this, like the setting in my book, um, is sort of like a home that draws people from like all across the world. They're like the fugitives of the world. Um, so it made sense that they're all from different backgrounds and different cultures, and they all have different pasts and traumas and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
um, yeah, like I don't know. It just felt like it had to be like that.
Mhm. It's really cool to have them all be like so different and come from different places, and like
Hmm.
getting to see them learn about each other and interact.
Yeah.
This kind of representation, especially like the queer representation, is it really like a crucial thing when it comes to like writing for you? Like, is it important to have that? And if like, so why?
Yes, it is definitely very important to me. Um, just like seeing characters, especially that are like me in
Hmm.
media, is
Of course.
has always been important and not very often.
Yeah.
Um, so getting to like create my own characters that are like this and getting to see so many people um, commenting about how they feel seen with these characters and how that they love that, say my characters Daydream Mahala. They're not really a couple, but like it's very obvious that I'm hinting, like, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
um, Everyone is obsessed with them. Like in all the videos I have about them, they're like, oh my gosh, Daydream Mahala. Like I'm so excited to read about them and to see like actual representation from someone who knows. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so important to have that representation and to be
Hmm.
seen in that way. And sometimes it's not coming from someone who like is that kind of representation, and it's not like very like real,
Hmm.
and it's just kind of put there. So it's like it's great to see it coming from someone who is.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
teen romances written by a teenager,
Yeah.
um, I feel is very like definitely something that like the literature world needs.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Especially I feel like I've read so many like YAs, like YA romances, and a lot of the time they're written by like not teens. And so
older, they're not teenagers. It's been a while since they've
yeah.
experienced like what it's actually like.
Yeah, and so I don't know, sometimes it can be hard to read. So it's very
Hmm.
refreshing to have it
Yeah,
come from like someone who's a teenager.
someone who knows, someone who
So,
knows.
someone who knows, yeah. In the process of writing this book, what was like the hardest thing to write? Maybe like a specific scene or a character?
Eyes K. The hardest thing to write, um, and first of all, this is like kind of joking, but like, is like the travel scenes because
Mhm.
like my entire book is like characters are moving from one place to another, but I just never know how to fill that space. So that's really hard to write. But mostly,
Mhm.
um, I'd say the hardest parts to write are like the really sad scenes, like the ones that are genuinely traumatizing for my characters because at this point, like it hurts me as much as it hurts them.
Yeah.
Um, because I've seen them come so far, and especially in like the last third of the book, I'm watching it all fall apart.
Yeah.
um, which was really not fun to write, but also I know that it's gonna really get the readers crying. So,
Oh.
um, yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah. Not to scare you or anything, but you know.
No, I understand. Oh, yeah. Sad scenes it's like some they either hit or they don't. And it's like
Yeah.
if they don't hit, it's kind of like what's the point? So,
It's kind of awkward. Like you're reading a
yeah.
sad scene, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I can imagine it'd be hard. Opposing to that, what is one of your favorite things to write or favorite thing to write when it came to this book?
Just the middle section of the book is called, like, I call it Act Two because it's like it's the big adventure portion where they're all running
Yeah.
around this enchanted forest and making new friends with fairy tale creatures and just sort of not a care in the world. That just it's very fun to write. It's very happy, good vibes, very summery, which is why I
Yeah.
want to try and release it in summer, get the
Yeah.
good vibes. Yeah.
Really
Definitely my
cool.
favorite part to write.
Mhm. Oh, the vibes of this book sound amazing. Like, I'm so excited. Next thing I want to ask about is your art and your filmmaking. I think that's all really cool.
Yes.
Filmmaking, I feel like, and that relates to writing, is like they're both like very powerful forms of storytelling. So, do you find do you relate those two things like that? Um, and like, why do you choose those two things as a way to tell stories?
I definitely sort of like see a connection between them because when I get a story idea, I sort of take a step back and I look at it and I'm like, would this work best in poetry form, short story form? Should I work at it and make it into a novel, or should I make it into a short film? Like,
Mm-hmm.
should I, like, what sort of media would work best for this story? And really, I sort of have to think about, like, can I describe this in words, or will I have to describe this in, like, pictures and actions and audio and sort of all the cinematography all the cinematography that
Yeah.
goes into, like, short films. But I definitely love storytelling in whatever form it may be.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, it really depends on the story.
Mm-hmm. How did you get into film and what really brought you to start creating films?
Um, there's this creator on Instagram. Her handle is Shots by Sophia,
I know who you're
and
talking about.
yeah,
She's so
she
cool.
is like an incredible filmmaker, and I've watched all of her stuff for years now,
Mm-hmm.
and it honestly just like really inspired me to like try that sort of form of art. Because I was like, you know what, I can write decently. I can't sing, I can act, but like maybe I should try something else.
Yeah.
um, and so I started just filming it like on my iPad, like making little weird Spider-Man videos because that was like my current obsession.
Yeah, of course.
And then I started using cameras and my phone, and I joined a videography club, and I just sort of started expanding my craft.
Yeah, of course. Oh, that's so cool. So, do you think that your filmmaking, do you think those ever intertwine with your writing and your other forms of media? Well, we kind of talked about that, but in terms of your social media, marketing your book, do you intertwine those often or do you keep them as separate things?
I love to intertwine them because
Mhm.
it honestly makes marketing so much easier for me because it feels less of like a chore that I have to do to like get my art out there and more of like another form of art. I've
Yeah.
gotten so many compliments on all of my reels because people are like, this is so cinematic and like it's interesting and like you can see a story and it's aesthetically pleasing because
Talented.
I'm secretly just like marketing my book in another form.
Mhm.
I don't know, it really works. It's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah. And then with your films, how do you draw the most inspiration to create your films? I know you just released one. So how does your process with making films work and where does the inspiration come from?
Especially with the last one that I did, it came from music. I feel
Of
like
course.
everything comes back to music. Um, I found the song that I use in the video on TikTok. I'm like, this is a cool song. Like I can sort of picture like some really sad story or whatever. And then earlier that day, I was just sort of hanging out with my friends, and like it just sort of, I don't know, something about like hanging out with people and that being mixed with music led me to be like, I'm gonna make a short film. And I just started filming with no plan and got probably an hour of footage that I mostly didn't need or use,
Yeah.
and came out with this little short film about a flower and a broken heart.
Yeah. No, but that's so cool. It's awesome, like,
Hmm.
just like with your writing, you just gotta like let it flow, and then you find your way to like the story you want to tell.
Gotta
That's
follow the creativity, you know?
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I have to ask is what advice would you give to someone else, maybe who's younger, who's also trying to get into writing or wants to start writing or wants to publish a book, but just like isn't sure or is struggling?
The most important things is that you just got to keep writing. You got to keep putting words on the page, typing it out on the screen, because once the words are there, you can read them, realize whether they're good or bad, and expand and find new stories and new characters and new worlds to dive into and to pour your heart into, which is why we write in the first place, to sort of have
Mhm.
this creative outlet that like makes us feel good about ourselves and our creative abilities. As well, just don't care what anyone else thinks. I spent a lot of my first years on Instagram really caring about like the whole aesthetic and making sure that the bigger accounts don't think I'm too weird, and making sure that I only share the best of the best of the best of my writing. When really it doesn't matter. You can share the weird tidbits from your first draft, and you can have random videos and posts and stuff that isn't pretty but is good content, good quality, more or less, and build a community that way.
That's going to be the end of the episode. So,
Okay.
thank you
I
so,
had a
so
lot of
much.
fun.
I had a lot of fun too. That was a great time. I'm so happy that
Hmm.
you came on the
Nervous.
podcast.
I
I was like really
guarantee you
nervous
most
reaching out,
people
but
are just like, yeah, would gladly would gladly be on a podcast, because this is honestly a great time. I've had a great time.
yeah, I'm so glad. It was so much fun.
Hmm.
So, thank you so, so much to everyone who listened. Go check out Katie's Instagram and TikTok and her films and everything. It'll all be linked. Yeah, that's going to be it for the episode. Goodbye.
Bye.